Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So unfortunately, it just came out in the media that one of Kobe Bryant's daughters, by the name of Natalia Bryant, had to file a restraining order against somebody for basically stalking her on social media. Apparently, this bozo had been stalking her on social media since like 2020, which, it's almost 2023. That's been almost 3 years ago, which is just disturbing. And it escalated really badly. It started with him just leaving her DMs on her social media account, basically insinuating or plainly stating really that he wanted to be in a romantic relationship with this young girl. And she's only 19 years old. The guy is like almost double her age. Like I said, disturbing. And it got so bad that he even basically threatened to come up to the school where she goes to school at. And he was even described in this one article as a gun enthusiast. A gun enthusiast who even posted about his gun purchases online. And a lot of this was before he tried to go up to the school physically where she was. Now, after that, they did honor the request for her to, file against him. And I'm glad that they did, because that kind of stuff is not something to play with. Although the only bad thing is, allegedly, it's supposed to, well, according to Twitter, only supposed to be like a 3-year long restraining order, which is ridiculous, because if he literally has been bothering her for that long, what makes them think that he won't wait 3 years for the restraining order to be let up to do it again? Some of these people out here are crazy and persistent. And I really don't think people understand. This is what people talk about when they say that sometimes the law enforcement and the judges and cops, they really don't take this kind of stuff seriously. There was somebody who told me that sometimes it takes up to like something like 60 times people filing reports about domestic violence and stuff like that for the police to even really get involved. By that time, all hell is broken loose, only 5 or 6 times over. It really is saddened that this happened to this young woman. Like, she was just trying to get her education, y'all, and just people just being awful out there. Although it's a wake-up call again, because people forget how often this actually does happen. The good thing is that her mother can't afford to get her that restraining order. And, she has people around her to help protect her. She is Kobe Bryant's daughter. Although, think about all the young women out there who people don't know about, especially in the black community. All of the young women who you don't see every day, that's stuck in the house with, people that they're going through this kind of stuff with, or that are out there being stalked, and they can't really draw attention to themselves because, like I said, people don't know them. They're just, an average woman out there. We really need to, again, draw some more attention to stuff like domestic violence, violence against women, and, situations like these where women have stalkers and people who harass them on the internet. And we really need to press our government to make stricter and harsher punishments and rules and regulations against this kind of stuff. Like, people have been saying, I get it, people like their guns out there, but it is too easy, entirely too easy for crazy people to get guns. And I know sometimes people can pass, psych tests, they can pass all kinds of, assessments and make it seem like that there's nothing wrong with them so they can have these guns, but they need to make it stricter. They need to do something, and they need to have stricter and harsher laws for harassing people, for stalking people, for putting people's lives in danger, for domestic violence, because it's really unfair to people who file, like I said, they file complaints, they call the police, and sometimes the police don't be wanting to do nothing. They go up there and they're like, oh, what do you want us to do? And then people end up getting beat up worse for trying to get help. Some people don't make it out. They call, they file this, they file that. And because the people in charge don't do their job or don't do enough, they don't end up making it. So there needs to be some kind of stricter punishments or something to regulate this kind of stuff and actually take people more seriously in these kind of situations, because people have lost their lives because of negligence and laziness on the part of people who are supposed to be helping people in these kinds of situations. Now, this situation reminds me a lot, on the subject of that, it reminds me a lot of that situation that came out on the news just recently with that guy who drove across the country after he catfished a young woman who was I can't even remember how old she was. I don't even think she was 21, but he catfished her. He was a police officer, y'all. He catfished her and then drove across the country off all of her family. She was living in a house, if I'm not mistaken, with her mother and her grandparents. He took all of them out And I guess his plan was basically to isolate her, to make sure she didn't have anybody in her life to stop him from snatching her up, basically. And he took all of the people that she did have in her life out of her life. And then he ended up getting caught and he offed himself, which that's just, I can't even begin to describe how messed up that is. Ruined her life and then took his own life. And now the girl is out of her mind and has to be in a protected place because she now has nobody, because this crazy man who there was no regulations, not a lot of rules, and they chalked it up to human error. People's lives were lost. A young girl's life was ruined because of human error. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying we need stricter and harsher punishments, more regulations on these guns, and just people in general. And people have got to be careful out there. Anyways, I just wanted to bring a little more awareness again to these subjects like domestic violence and, stalking and harassing people. There needs to be, like I keep saying, harsher punishments. Like if somebody gets, the police called on them for blacking like their wife's eyes out or their girlfriend's eyes out or their child's eyes out. And this is obviously like a continuous thing that they've been doing. They need to not just be put in jail for a couple of days or overnight. Like there needs to be something harsher done that's going to make them, think twice before they do that again. Or if somebody files a restraining order against somebody, that needs to be permanent. They need to not drag their feet, especially when the person has proof that the person was harassing them or stalking them, and they need to act in a very timely, more than timely manner. And it needs to be permanent, because we're not going to rely on the goodwill of somebody changing their mind just because they got slapped with a restraining order, because that don't just change people's minds. Like, sure, they might turn into a better person somewhere down the road, but we're not going to risk somebody's life, some young woman's life, on them changing sometime down the road, because that don't usually happen. So if somebody has harassed somebody to the point where they have to have a restraining order placed against them, that restraining order needs to be permanent. Not temporary, not 3 years, not 2 years, not a couple of months. It needs to be permanent. And we need to always keep in mind, like I said, the women that are out there that are dealing with this kind of stuff on a usual basis, just trying to go to work, at the job, at their house, in their neighborhood, that don't have a lot of, publicity, that's, kind of hidden in the shadows, not because they want to, but that's because, unfortunately, life. And we need to be more of a community. We need to be more of a community and look out for people. But anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments below.